Hey everyone, it's me, Matt. Welcome back to my Florida garden. I hope you're all doing great, and I hope you're ready to hang out with me today because in today's video, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to propagate Schefflera plants, commonly referred to as umbrella plants. So let's get into it. So to start off, these are the mother plants that we will be taking our cuttings from. You can see these variegated Schefflera plants look beautiful with their dark green and creamy yellow variegated leaves. So these plants are tropical plants. In a lot of parts of the country, they're grown indoors as houseplants, but here in Florida, we can grow them outside in our landscape. They make a nice shrub. I'll show you my neighbor's side yard. They actually have some growing as a hedge. They've hedged them, so they take really well to pruning, and you can actually hedge them. They look really nice. So I've got some more of these variegated ones over here on this side of the bed as well. You can see some of them are pretty tall. I'm gonna definitely take some of this hide out and try to keep, I like to keep these Scheffleras lower in this bed. So then coming over here, let me just quickly show you my neighbor's hedge. So this here is another variety of Schefflera. These are all green. You can see there's no variegation in their leaves, but they're a deep green. But you can see how they've got them hedged. They're probably 6 feet tall. I'm about 6 feet tall. Let me spin the camera around. So yeah, like I was saying, I'm about 6 feet tall. You can see these ones are roughly my height. They make excellent screening plants. They're beautiful, beautiful tropical plants. And the best part, these are some of the easiest plants to propagate from cuttings, but we're not gonna be taking our cuttings from my neighbor's plants here. Like I said, we're gonna be taking our cuttings from my variegated Schefflera plants over here. I just love their two-tone colors, and I really want to incorporate them into my backyard shade garden area. I really think that creamy yellow color in the leaves is gonna pop in that space. So stick around to the end because I definitely am going to be giving you an update on my backyard shade garden. So before we get in here and make our cuts for our propagations, let me quickly show you all the tools that we're going to be using for today's project. So here's all the materials that we'll be using for today's project. You can see I've got some potting mix. I've got 6 containers here. I've got a hand shovel. I've got my rooting powder. This stuff, I highly recommend using it anytime you're doing plant propagations. It really helps speed up the root development. And then lastly, I've got some hand pruners and some 70% isopropyl alcohol. So that way I can sterilize my hand pruners between plants when we make our cuts off the mother plants. So coming back over to the mother plants now, I've got my sterilized hand pruners here. I sterilized them off camera. I was gonna try to do them on camera, but I've only got 2 hands and I couldn't hold the camera, the pruners, and then squirt them with the 70% isopropyl alcohol at once. So you're just gonna have to trust me, these are sterilized. So coming in here to give you a close-up of where we're gonna make our cuts, you can see right here, I'm gonna make the cuts just above a leaf node. So coming in here, I'm gonna make an angled cut. That way water will run off the cut. It'll help the plant be less susceptible to disease. So we come in here and we just make that angled cut, like I said, right above the leaf node. And then giving you another example, we will come in here on this one, and we're gonna do the same thing above a leaf node. Oh wait, I forgot to sterilize. Give me 1 second. Let's sterilize. I guess I could have done it this way. So squirt it and squirt it. All right, so back over. We will make that cut just above a leaf node. Again, an angled cut so that the plant is less susceptible to disease. All right, so I've got my first 2 cuttings here, and I want 10 more because I have 6 containers total, and I want to put 2 cuttings in each of the containers. So let me really quick set you guys up on the tripod. I'll cut off 10 more cuttings, and then we'll move on to the next step in the process. All right, so I don't know what happened. My camera stopped filming. I made one cut and then it stopped filming, but I've got 4 of my cuttings here. So let me set you guys up on the tripod. I'll try again and we will get these ones trimmed back over here. I'll get 6 more cuttings. So there we go. I've got my 12 cuttings and I moved them over here to our work area. So the next step in the process, we're gonna be breaking off probably the lower, I'd say 5 or 6 leaves off of each of the stems. When you break off the leaf, let me try to do it one-handed. When you break off these leaves, it is causing a bit of a wound area on the stem, which is where the roots will eventually grow from. That one's not coming off. There we go. So you can see I did that one-handed. Made it look effortless, I'm sure. So I'm gonna prep all of the stems the same way, and then we will move on to the next step, which will be dipping them in the rooting powder and sinking the stems into the soil. So let me quickly prep the rest of these, and then we will move right along. So simple enough, my stems are all prepped. So let me quickly fill up my 6 containers with some soil, and then we will dip the stems in the rooting powder and stick them into the containers. All right, so my stems are all prepped, and I moved you guys in a little closer so you can get a better look. We're just gonna dip all the stems now into the rooting powder, and then we're gonna stick them right into the soil in the containers. So there we go. My Schefflera propagations are all set. They are ready to go. I watered them in. You can see how beautiful they look. So it's going to be very important to keep the soil moist in these containers for the next 2 to 3 weeks while they root in. I'm actually going to move them really quick over into my backyard shade garden area near where I have my pineapple propagations. If you remember that video from a few weeks ago, I left them over at the edge of my grass line so that they'll get some water from my sprinklers. So let's quickly move these over there now, and then I'll show you the backyard shade garden area where I plan to put them. And then really quick, I wanted to mention that taking those cuttings from these mother plants is actually really good for these plants. Everywhere where I made the cuts, so you can see here, here, and here, so on and so forth, these plants will actually branch laterally. So I will not only end up with a bunch of free Schefflera plants from a backyard shade garden, but these plants up here will also become fuller and kind of branch out and fill in this space even more. All right, so these Schefflera propagations have been placed. Like I said, they're right here at the edge of my grass. They'll get some water from my lawn sprinklers while they root in. So like I said, it's important to keep the soil moist while they root in. It'll really help that root development. And then eventually, once they are ready to be planted in the ground, they don't really need a ton of water once established. They're actually, I'd say, very drought tolerant. Where they are in my front yard, they actually don't get any irrigation. I don't have them hooked up to drip. So they are very, I'd say, drought tolerant plants. And then for a quick peek at my shade garden area, a little update on where these plants will eventually be planted. You can see everything in here is continuing to do so well. I've got the magenta sun patience. This here is an angel wing begonia, which hasn't started flowering yet. I've got the red Hawaiian tea plants, well, greenish red. As they mature, they will color up and turn more red, similar to these ones here and those ones there across the backyard. I've also got these ladyfinger palms. There's a handful of them. There's a little one that's not doing too well, but this one here is doing really well, and then that one. And then actually these angel wing begonias over here are blooming. Got a little bloom cluster here, as well as this one over here. We got some blooms here. Look how beautiful those look in the light. And then some more bloom clusters. I've got a few more of the red Hawaiian tea plants tucked in back here. And then up here, I've got the variegated ginger plants, which I love this creamy yellow and green color. It's very reminiscent of those Schefflera plants that we just propagated. So I want to get some more of that color and texture, if you will, back in this shade garden. Also tucked in here, I haven't given an update on this in a while, but this little guy here, this is the Hawaiian snowbush. It's rooted in, it's doing really well. So yeah, overall, this backyard shade garden is doing beautiful. It's the late afternoon right now, that's why there's some sun trickling in from the tree canopy over here. But yeah, the plan moving forward is once these Scheffleras are established in their containers, I'll then transplant them in here along the fence line, and I think that they'll add some beautiful color and texture as I continue to develop my mixed tropical border. So that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a mosquito. I hope you found all the information useful, and hopefully you will try to propagate some Schefflera plants of your own. If you haven't already done so, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons so you can hang out with me in future videos. And as always, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.